Creating a budget is easier than you think. Think of creating a budget and try to figure out how much to spend every month. Then stick to a plan. It's not difficult to follow if you take a little time to analyze your spending and calculate fluctuating expenses. You should also keep track of your expenses and create a savings plan to cover your expenses. Then you'll know where to put your extra money every month to save for something unexpected. Analyzing your monthly expenses. Developing a budget can be easier if you analyze your monthly expenses. For instance, you'll want to list your fixed and variable expenses such as rent or mortgage payments, car payments, utilities, and other recurring monthly bills. Then group them into groups like miscellaneous expenses. And these can add up over time. So maybe use an app to analyze your spending patterns and figure out what you can do for savings. Start analyzing your monthly expenses. Gather all your receipts and bank records and categorize them according to their sources. Next, total your income expenses for each category. Write down these totals next to the ones in your budget. Calculate the difference between the two figures. If the difference is positive, you've been doing a great job with your budget. Conversely, if you spend more than you earn, you have a negative number. If you've been living beyond your means, you can either make more money or lower your expenses. Once you've analyzed your expenses, you can focus on boosting your savings by tracking your monthly spending. When you do this, you should be aware of your habits and allocate more money towards your saving goals. This means you'll be better able to make a better budget. To begin, you need to list your income and expenses. You should list all sources of income and note down the total monthly amounts. That way you can adjust your income if you have erratic hours. Monthly income analysis worksheet can help you with this step. By doing this, you can determine how much money you make and realistically spend. Then you can plan for the future and set healthy financial goals. You can also create multiple scenarios and compare your actual spending with your forecast. Using a tool like Finmark, you can compare your budget with actual expenditures and identity variables. By keeping track of your spending, you can create a budget that fits your needs and helps you achieve financial freedom. This way, you have more money put aside for savings. Once you've made a budget, you'll know how much money you need to save. Calculating fluctuating expenses. While it's possible to estimate fluctuating expenses to a degree, you should also account for discretionary expenses. These things you buy may not seem necessary, such as clothing or entertainment. However, calculating these expenses is more complicated than the previous steps and requires you to know about your spending habits. You should consider how much money you would normally spend on certain items if you're on a budget. Fixed expenses are those that remain constant. You can estimate these in columns in your budget. Variable expenses can be calculated as percentages of your income. The important thing is to make sure that you account for both types of expenses, so you'll be able to set your overall expenses. This way, you'll be able to compare them side by side. However, you should make sure to use your totals and that you understand and able to explain them to someone outside your company. While fixed expenses cannot be avoided, determining your fluctuating expenses is essential, and it's a great part of creating your budget. Fixed expenses include your mortgage, gym membership, dining out. Variable expenses include entertainment and can be cut from your budget. Try to remember that some expenses are more expensive than others, so make sure that you account for these. You're creating a budget. Also remember to save some money for unforeseen events. If you set aside money each month to cover variable costs, you'll have more cash to work with when you need it. Another way to trim fixed expenses is to shop around for better deals. One way is to cut your car insurance and compare prices. By looking for cheaper policies, you'll be able to save up money for necessities. Utility bills are also considered fixed expenses because they are sent out on the same day every month and remain relatively constant. Luckily, there are a variety of apps and templates available to help you figure out what you need to do to meet your expenses. Keeping track of your spending. While keeping track of your spending may be tedious, it'll also give you a sense of control over your finances. After all, your getting finances under control will lead to peace of mind and no more debts. The motivation to keep track of your spending may be curiosity, working towards a specific goal, or desire to eliminate debt. Whatever your motivation, it's important to keep track of your expenses. One way Start tracking your expenses by looking at your receipts. You can use a notebook, spreadsheet, phone app, or software program to record everything you spend money on. By keeping track of your spending, you can identify areas where you can cut and improve your financial situation. If you keep track of your spending habits, you'll be able to better identify what you need to change in order to save more money and spend wisely. Once you have a list of your expenses, you can break them into categories. For example, if you spend a lot of money on groceries and entertainment, then you may want to group these into separate categories. Your fixed income, such as mortgage, utilities, are likely to fluctuate month to month. On the other hand, your variable expenses, like food and clothing and travel, will fluctuate each month. Grouping them together will help you identify trends. Another way to keep track of your spending when creating a budget is to create a ledger. Divide a ledger into 3 columns: rent, utilities, groceries, clothing, and transportation. This way you can easily see the category your spending falls under. Then you can decide if your spending habits need to change or if you need to change them. Keeping track of your spending when creating a budget can be a lifesaver. The first step to achieving financial freedom is to keep track of your expenses by reviewing your transactions every month. You'll be able to see where you're spending your money by comparing your expenses with your income. You'll know where you're spending too much. Once you have identified the areas where you're overspending, you'll be able to make necessary adjustments. Creating a savings plan. So creating a savings plan when you're doing this to a budget is an excellent idea because it gives you time and space to save for your goals. Before you start, create a financial inventory. This way you'll be able to see what you're currently spending and where you stand financially. This will help you with the time needed to achieve your goal. Saving money for long-term goals is different from saving for short-term goals, since you need the amount of money to be a little bit different from what you have in liquid assets. First, make a realistic budget. Typically, financial advisors recommend saving enough to cover 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Then make saving goals that are more realistic than monthly expenses. Divide your expenses by 3 or 6 and set this as your first goal. Once you reach the goal, add in other goals to help you achieve your overall goal. You can set these goals that range from emergency funds to retirement accounts. Creating a savings plan. When you're creating a budget, it's a good idea to have some extra cash put aside for emergencies. Even if you're stingy, the extra effort to save will pay off when you need it most. Automated savings is a good option too. It can reduce the amount you need to compete each month. Also, having accountability with a partner will help hold you accountable to your plan. After creating a budget, make sure you're categorizing your expenses by type. Depending on your lifestyle and financial goals, your categories can include all types of expenses, fixed and variable. By categorizing your expenses by need and want, you can then set spending limits and redirect money towards the savings you want to achieve. For instance, if you want to spend on a vacation abroad, you need to put money aside for that too. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for watching this video, and we will be back for more information on budgeting very soon.